All right, guys, it's time for the second Snyder's Forge. For anyone who doesn't know, this is going to be a weekly segment that I do. It's going to be unscripted, one-shot recording, upload every Thursday or Friday, depending on which day I'm able to do it. And basically, we will be taking some of the top upvoted community feedbacks that are posted in our Discord in the forum section. So if you have something to share or an idea or feedback, you can post it in there. The ones with the most upvotes, we're going to generally take like 3 of the top 5, depending on how interesting I think the topics are to discuss. So go ahead and upvote in there the ones that you want to see covered. And then also feel free to post your own. And also, if they get upvoted enough, we will go over it as well. Just so you guys know, everything that is sent in that forum does go to the CMs and they bring it to us. One of my CMs just dropped me 5 more from them, like some healer, quality of life stuff, etc. But the top ones we want to bring like extra attention to, and so that I can have a chance to give my thoughts, my feedback, and also some ideas. Maybe if you know, a lot of people want it, but it's not something that we think fits, then I get a chance to kind of share why, so you get a better understanding and not just like, oh, like no, or that's a bad idea or something like that. I can really dig into why. Couple of requests last week. People asked to make me full screen, which makes sense because it is just like an AMA thing, or not full screen, but the big part of the screen like I am now. And then also bringing the questions up on the screen. Some of them are really long, so it's a little tricky to do it. I'll get a better setup for that. But for now, grab screenshots of most of it and we'll put that up on screen. So to try and keep this one a little bit quicker, so it's not another half an hour one, we'll dive right into it. So the first one is the topic was, sorry, let me actually grab the topic name, game crashing in PvP. So the post is, I wanted to raise an issue that's been happening far too often during PvP and RavenQuest. The game randomly crashes mid-fight. It doesn't affect everyone, but it's consistently hitting players from some of the top competitive guilds. We've seen crashes during GVG, Rifts, and Open World PvP. It's incredibly frustrating, especially when a key player drops mid-fight. Some players are quitting, not because the game lacks fun, but because it's unreliable when it matters most. Even worse, major streamers who recently joined are now reaching PvP content and they're crashing live in front of thousands. That's a bad look when at a time when RavenQuest could be gaining traction. The CMs are doing a great job collecting logs and forwarding reports, but the logs show nothing. I've personally reviewed crash cases from 3 players, no errors, just a screen flash, then either forced closure via task manager or Windows auto closing the game. This isn't a minor bug, it's game breaking for PvP focused players. There's a little bit more, but that gives like 99% of the context because I can't show more on the screen. Yeah, so I mean, of course, this is something that's incredibly important to us. This was the #1 upvoted thing, by the way. Ultimately, like, we did some pretty significant optimizations and improvements a few weeks ago that saw a huge benefit for a lot of players, just with lag, stuttering, other crashes, etc. And that was very, very helpful and a really good step there. But right now, it's mainly affecting in PvP that it's happening. And as you mentioned, it is tough because it's not producing a crash log of why it's crashing, and it's just like timing out basically. These kind of things are obviously not simple to solve. Otherwise we would have solved it very quickly. Like most other things that are able to be solved quickly, we solve them really quick. And often they require like really deep troubleshooting, and also from like our senior engineers, because a junior engineer is not gonna be able to figure these issues out. And it's usually like some really deep thing that needs to be solved. It also takes like a lot of trial and error, and just a lot of time in general. And so with that, obviously PvP being the highest frequency of crashes, this is also the last place that we want crashes to be happening, right? If you're just like in town and you crash, okay, whatever. But if you're in the middle of a guild war, this sucks, right? Again, I've been a gamer all my life. I love PvP in games. It's why, you know, guild wars are a thing. It's why arenas are coming. It's why battlegrounds are coming. I love PvP in games, and I would be furious crashing in the middle of a PvP game. My best example is WoW Arena. For anyone here who is a WoW Arena player or used to play WoW Arena, you would know that the mind control bug still exists like 15 years later, where sometimes when you get mind controlled, your client will just crash, or you'll just fall through the earth or completely freeze. It's still in the game. I have no idea with 1,000 people working on that game how they haven't been able to fix it, but it's probably something just super deep ingrained in the game's code that they just can't figure out. Obviously, it still sucks, and for me, I think it happens 1 in 3 games, or 1 in 3 times I get mind controlled, my game will just crash, or I'll fall through the map. It absolutely sucks. And just to be clear, this is not an excuse for them or for us on this. It's just that sometimes there's issues that are just really hard to solve. Doesn't change the fact that we know we need to solve it, and we know how important it is as well to solve. Part of the challenge with this issue is that it's not universal. Majority of players never get these crashes, but then also definitely enough players do get this crash. And with it not producing a crash log, it's very hard to find and troubleshoot. And then on top of that, with there being no consistency of people who are crashing, especially even like looking at hardware, like it seems to affect people with weaker computers more often, but there's also exceptions to that where we've seen people with more than like very powerful computers and they're also having it. So that also like hurts as well there, right? So it makes it very hard to figure out. But one thing I do want to mention is this is like a top priority right now for our lead engineer. It's what he's putting his full time and focus into. And so we're really hoping that he's able to solve it as soon as possible here. But it is a top priority for us. And especially with Arena coming and the other things we have coming, it's so important that we do solve this issue and that so nobody's having that. At least in the meantime, we're also looking at different safeguards that we can put up. So if it does happen, you're not like kicked out of the guild war. That doesn't happen for most, but it seems a few people did get kicked out. And so things like that. So at least we have a safeguard. It still doesn't make for a perfect situation because you can still lose a fight because of it, and that can still have a huge impact. But at least you're not fully out of the guild war or something like that, or disqualified or not able to help the rest of the guild war. But I assure you, like again, as a PvP player myself, I can imagine how incredibly frustrating this would be. I would be incredibly frustrated. You guys are right to be incredibly frustrated. Just sharing our side that many times these things aren't just like, oh, like just like change this little thing or this, it's right here, right? And it's like, oh, we just been dragging our feet on a thing that we could fix in an hour or something like that. It is something that needs a lot of investigation, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes. And so just so you guys are aware, from our side, it is very important. It's something that now we are fully dedicating on, and we hope we solve it as soon as possible here. On the next one, we'll go to the battle summary first. So someone suggested a battle summary hunt analyzer. We need a summary like Raven Idols to know what we did in the last 10, 20, 30 minutes so we can analyze hunts based on the information. Yeah, so the nice part about Raven Idol, and for anyone who doesn't know, Raven Idol releasing July 4th, make sure to check it out. You can look at our recent announcements or go to ravenidol.com. Building things out web-based is way quicker and way easier. It's very nice, actually. It's amazing how many things we can build out, how quickly when it's web-based. I see now why a lot of Web3 games are made web-based because, yeah, it allows for implementing some things really quickly. With that, we obviously love the idea of a hunt analyzer. I think things like this are really cool. The other great part about Raven Idol, it lets us test out certain things and see how much they're actually like used and liked by the community, because sometimes things are asked but really not that many people would utilize it a lot. I think this is the one thing that a lot of people would, to be clear, but that's a big benefit to Raven Idol. We can try out certain things in a much quicker way and iterate on them much quicker. And but with that, a hunt analyzer, it's a great idea. Ultimately right now our focus is on 1.1 and we have a very packed scope already for that. We're just making sure that we deliver everything for Treasures Below or patch 1.1. That includes a huge focus on endgame PvE loops, reasons to progress your character and get stronger and really push the max capacity of your character. The Quest 2.0 ecosystem, which is a huge revamp to the reward pool structure and just rewards in general on RavenQuest, really juicing those up. And then also on, Arena. And then after that, we already have plans on world bosses for driving more open world PvP. But ultimately with that, we also see interesting path forwards on adding API support for something like this, so that a third party like RavenQuest Tools is able to build out these kind of tools on their side, just to save us the time so we can focus more on core development, kind of like how WoW works with add-ons, right? So yeah, definitely something that we agree with and think would be a really cool addition. It all just comes down to our scope and resources. As you guys saw, we did put up some new job postings. We are growing the studio. Just so you know, there's only like one spot for engineer, but we'll actually be hiring multiple. We're really growing things behind the studio for the ecosystem side, but also a few other cool things. And so we're very blessed. We're one of the few studios in Web 2 and Web 3 that's actually able to grow right now. But with that, make sure to check those out if you're interested. We also have a few other positions open up on tavernlightgames.com. But this allows us to build out more stuff quicker as well, which is awesome. And then the last one here, we're flying through these. This is perfect. The last one here is regarding a guild enemy and nemesis system. I'll read through it. Sorry, I have a cough today. Infamy is a flawed system. You watch your guildmates die in front of you, but if you help them, you're suddenly a murderer and are free game. You now lose more and more money with every kill. What is the point? Why do I need to wait for someone from an enemy guild to attack me or an innocent before I don't gain infamy? Why does conflict zones give you infamy? Right now, there is no reward for killing people in a conflict zone unless they have a trade pack, called eyes, or lots of fish. The only other reason would be to protect, steal a grinding zone, or to be a griefer for the heck of it. You'd be surprised. You say that ironically, you'd be surprised how many are like that. And that's why we have the infamy system. The moment you come out on top and win with lots of fights, you're suddenly punished very harshly if you happen to die. And this is in a zone that is clearly labeled as PvP zone for a set amount of time, alerting players to the risks. If you're going to keep infamy system like this for these rare bits of PvP in the world, then I propose a guild enemy declaration system. The ability to declare a guild as an enemy, and now both sides can fight in conflict zones without infamy. Again, there was a little bit more. I couldn't include all of it. But that kind of gets the essence of the post. So yeah, just to share, the reason that we do have the difference between a conflict and a war zone is the idea of a conflict zone is you are able to PvP, but there's still consequences for it. And then a war zone, there is no consequences for it. And so it's kind of like a in-between setup there. Obviously, having infamy is a very important mechanic in MMORPGs that have open world PvP, as you can imagine. It's a very, very important system to have, because you'd be surprised how many people do just grief for the heck of it, right? Or power abuse, etc. However, with that, we actually have a pretty big revamp coming to the infamy system, and as well as PvP zones. We will be making PvP zones occur more frequently again, or spawn in more frequently again. We reduced it and put more focus on the plunder, but we just really haven't felt like that model worked well. We wanted to try it out and see different things, but we definitely feel like the increased PvP zones are required for a lot of parts of the game and just make the game a lot more interesting, especially for PvP players, but also keeping it optional for PvE players, right? And because they know when those zones are switching over, there's zones that are in peace. And ultimately with that, we're also looking to change how the benefits to PvP zones work, where we want to actually, instead of like making PvP zones have, a little bit of a boost to everything, we want to instead make a larger boost to specific single things. So for example, like 15% more experience or 20% more experience, and 20% more loot, or 30% more gathering, or higher chance of rare materials, stuff like that. And having kind of just a single thing, but a much larger boost. So at any given time, you can kind of see 2 or 3 different zones that are now PvP. And you can see like, oh, do I want to go focus on getting more infusions, or do I want to gather over there, etc. And then also even there's a few cool things we want to do kind of around called eyes. We actually have something coming for open world fishing too. So if you're a fisher, look forward to that. We have something cool coming for you guys, especially if you're a ocean PvPer as well. You'll like it a lot too. But aside from that, like we see some interesting mechanics with called eyes, kind of doing something similar for like gathering. So if you're gathering in these zones, there's kind of like a called eye gathering area or something like that, where there are actually things that you drop as well. And also this will just naturally bring more called zones into or called spawns into the game, because zones will be flipping to PvP more and will ultimately just improve open world PvP stronger, because the plunder experiment just hasn't worked as well as we would like it to, and we want it to be a bit more organic part of the game, but still optional for the players that are, you know, just want a PvE. They're not hardcore PvPers. Maybe they're playing with a friend who's newer to MMOs and they just don't want to every zone they go into get killed constantly. And so making sure that both sides there have something strong, but also benefits to those that do want to risk it in those PvP zones. And then regarding your Nemesis idea, something that I absolutely love. Again, there's so many ideas that you guys share that I'm like, I love this. But it's just like, you know, do we pause Arena for this? Probably not. Would we, you know, pause Expeditions for it? Of course not. And so these are a lot of ideas that we kind of add to our roadmap of things that we want to do. But I think the Nemesis idea, or like challenging a guild to like a guild war, is really cool, because we can even do like tracking kills on each side, possibly even adding like a wager system, so you can put up like silver or quest for which side wins the guild war and has like a set 1 week timer or something like that. I think that's like really, really cool, and a really cool idea. Even making it so there's like optional to just have it PvP everywhere, so they can PvP anywhere other than the main city, or clear safe zones. But if a zone is in peace, like still being able to fight there would be kind of cool. And so yeah, very cool concept, and something that I will definitely add to our development map here, because I think things like that are awesome, and also allows for that kind of all-out anarchy, but a little bit more organic than like the plunder channel is. So very, very cool idea, and I appreciate you sharing that as well. And so that will be the 3 things covered today. I went through them pretty quick, which is awesome. Trying to keep these always under 20 minutes. The last thing is, every single Nighters Forge, I'm going to do a kind of like community question for you guys to give us feedback on and what your thoughts are on. Today, we're going to make it super organic, because it's going to tie to this topic that you just mentioned, or, well, that I mentioned regarding this topic. What would you guys like to see in terms of bonuses for PvP zones? So for example, I threw out a few, like increased loot, experience gathering, etc. Is there any like other ideas that you guys see that would be kind of cool to add to PvP zones, whether it's like a boost on something or something a little more out there, an idea that you guys have? Tag me in the tavern. CMs will gather all of it, even if I don't respond to you, but share your ideas there, share your input, even on this whole thing that I kind of mentioned. Any input you have on any of the topics or things mentioned, please, would love to hear from you. Again, while I can't respond to everybody, CMs, they go through everything every day. They're always grabbing stuff. So I promise you it'll get to the team, and you guys' feedback is super, super helpful. And yeah, I think that's everything. So that's today's question. So let me know. Feel free to tag me though, just because there's a higher chance I see it in the tavern. But guys, that will be Nighters Forge number 2. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really enjoying doing these. I think this is awesome moving forward. And I always look forward now to doing these each week. So moving forward, every Thursday, Friday, we'll be dropping one of these, and just in the minor announcements channel. So make sure to check that out. See you guys.